I'm delighted to welcome back today Steve Judge, who is a motivational speaker. Welcome, Steve.
Nice to be here. Thank you very much, Elaine. It's nice to catch up, really, because we must have chatted a couple of years ago now. So it'd be nice to catch up on how things have changed. And talk about resilience seems to be the buzzword at the moment.
Absolutely it is. Yeah, last time we spoke, you came to the radio station up in Derbyshire, and I'm now in Portugal, many miles away, so podcasting as opposed to broadcasting, I suppose. Resilience is a very popular word these days, and I don't think it's one that many people actually understand what resilience is. So can you just give us a brief rundown of what resilience from your perspective is?
Do you know, I don't know if I've really got a definition yet. There's so many out there, and you don't know whether to simplify it or complicate it. So let's try and simplify it. In my eyes, it's about being knocked down and picking yourself back up again. To do that over and over again. There's a famous Japanese proverb: get knocked down 7 times, get up 8 times. And it's about continuously doing that over and over and over again. So that's my definition of resilience. How you put that into a phrase, everybody's different. So you could write a paragraph on that. So I think some people know what resilience is about, almost not giving up. I think that would probably sum it up even simpler. A lot of people ask, how do you get resilience? How do you keep resilience? How do you build up resilience? And I think that's the interesting bit. You can build it up, absolutely. It's like a muscle. So the more you do it, the better you get at a resilience. But obviously, to do that, you've got to be knocked down, and that's what people don't like. So a lot of people shy away from it. So I'm not saying you should go out there and be knocked down, but in a way, that's kind of what I am saying. It's about pushing yourself out your comfort zone, because that will create change, discomfort, adversity, possibly. And once you do that, you've pushed yourself out your comfort zone, you will start riding the wave of resilience, as I call it. And going on that wave of resilience, that journey will take you through every single stage of the wave. And then you'll come out of it stronger, as in your resilience will have grown. So, and then you can do it all over again. And this is what life is about. A lot of people don't realize that. A lot of people realize that life is just, a smooth journey. And you're like, no. It's you got to open your eyes. There's going to be things around each corner, and that's the first lesson. Really, is to realize that there's always going to be something. Could be big, could be small, but there's going to be something. And so you've got to be ready to deal with that something when it comes to you, whether that's big or whether that's small. Now, if you can practice with all the small stuff, then that's great. So build up your resilience with the small things, like you can't find your phone or your keys, or you stub your toe, and you go through the wave of resilience as you just carry on, you don't flip out. Brilliant. So that when something big does happen, you follow the same format. It might take a little bit longer and a little bit more, digging down deep, but you'll be using that resilience that you've built up, and you'll come out bigger and stronger.
There's a saying, isn't there, that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I think that's never been so true as this past year. 2020 has been a year where people have really dug deep and found the strength that they didn't know they had in some situations. And that's something that you know all about, Steve, don't you, with your past experience when you were a sportsman. So what led you to what was your kind of biggest resilient step? Your resilient wave that you rode?
In my past, so yes, there are some listeners out there that may not know my full story. So I'll just whiz through that. 2002, had a near fatal car accident, was told that I may never walk again. That was the start of my wave of resilience. There had been a few things before that, like my father passing away and redundancy, but this was a really big one. Getting my legs wiped out, being told I may never walk again. And that's when I started riding the wave, going through, and we can go through, I'll mention them now, but you go through 8 steps when you go on the journey. And that is, first of all, you have shock. So, something happens, then you go straight into denial. and because your body's trying to protect you. Let me just go into a little bit more. So with the shock, you have the cortisol that's released. That's the fight or flight. And that's what I did. I was very much, when somebody told me that I may never walk again, that angered me. And I used that anger. That was my fight that came out straight away. You know, who the hell are you to tell me? However, it was a surgeon. He knew what he was talking about. My legs were trashed, but still, that's what he said. And I was like, well, okay, that's what you think. That was my denial, going straight into denial, as in la 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 la. I'll show you. I don't believe you. I think I'll be okay. Then, you know, you realize how bad the accident it was, how bad my legs were. I had to grow my leg back by 4 inches. I had to twist bolts every single day. I had to do loads of physio for a year and a half. Throughout this process, I had the anger, very much the anger inside me of, look at what this accident's done for me. Now, I never said to myself that the anger had ruined my life. I always said that it changed my life, but still, that change I was not happy with. I was dealing with it through the anger. Now, blended onto that is the sharing part. This is step 4. Sharing is really important. Now, you can do that in various ways. You can talk to people. Sorry, the anger, that's when the testosterone was kicking in. So the testosterone kicks in, that's when you get the anger. The sharing, you get the oxytocin release. And that's from sharing it. You can share it with other people. You can talk to a coach or mentor. Make sure you got the right person, somebody who's actually going to listen to you and, you know, understand what you're going through. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, there's other ways you can do it. So many other ways. And these are the kind of things that I start talking about in my workshops. You can do art, you can do poetry, you can just read it, or you can write it. Music is an amazing one. If you find some music that relates to what you're going through, oh, that's so nice. You listen to the words and go, oh, they get me. They understand what I'm going through. And that's really nice to share the experience. So you can do all of that good stuff. And then, but even though you do that, the anger, the sharing, you will still come down to rock bottom. And rock bottom, 5th step, that's the lowest that you can get. For me, there were various times on my journey as I was, you know, trying to grow my leg and trying to walk, trying to stand, various knockbacks, various other operations that I had to go through. And I was definitely at rock bottom many times. And that's a dark place. It's a dark place for many people. It could be that you're just sulking about something, but it could be more than that, depending on the event, the initial event, or a traumatic event, and that could even lead to you know, depression. And it's really hard. And how long you stay in that zone, yes, it depends on you, depends on what's happened to you, but also depends on how you dealt with it before, with the anger and the sharing. Now, I talk about the, you know, the sharing quite a lot, even the anger, because you can start taking a little bit of control about things within those steps, especially the sharing step. The rock bottom, there's not a lot you can do apart from ride it out, ride the wave. You've got to go through that, but you've got to be aware. This is why understanding the wave of resilience is so important, because after the rock bottom, where, you know, you got the cortisol and you got confusion really between your hormones, after the rock bottom, you get a serotonin release, and you get that because of finally you will accept the situation. And that's the next step, acceptance. Accepting the situation that happened, accepting the denial, accepting that you were angry, accepting that you needed to share in one way or another, accepting that you were really, really low and you were sulking, you were depressed, you know, accepting all of that. Because once you accept it, you get the serotonin release, which then helps you. If you imagine the wave, you've gone down the wave, down and down and down to rock bottom, you're now starting to go up again. So the serotonin release, the acceptance, that gets you onto the next stage, which is, I love this one, I always smile, is the action. You can start taking action at long last, and that's when you get a dopamine release. You always get dopamine release, which makes you feel good, and because of that, you keep doing more action, you accept the situation, do more action, more action, more action, and this is lifting you up and up and up and up. Now, this is the important thing. If you keep going up and up and up, you keep taking action, moving forward, that's the last one, what you'll realize is on the wave of resilience, you'll end up actually higher than where you were at the beginning. So if you imagine shock one side, massive wave down, wave up to action and moving forward, you'll be on a higher plane. Therefore, the answer is that, you know, you'll be in a better place than you were before. For me, I did then stand again and walk again. I then carried on pushing myself. I would say I kind of finished one wave there, and I went on to another wave. But basically, the story goes, I was looking for more things that I could do. I wanted to make sure, Elaine, that the accident hadn't had a detrimental effect on my life. And so for me to do that, I kept on taking more and more action. I started thinking about what I could do rather than what I couldn't do. And then this is a big thing about building resilience. Accept the situation, think about what you really want. What's your vision? Think about what you can do rather than what you can't do. I was now disabled, but I did some investigations and I registered as a disabled athlete and thought, right, well, what can I do with that? I started swimming because I could. I started cycling because I could. I eventually started running again, though my legs, they could run a little bit. And that took me higher and higher. I then started entering competitions. I wanted to prove again that physically that hadn't held me back. Competitions in paratriathlon, swimming, cycling, running, becoming British champion, setting goals, working towards them, becoming a European champion, and then setting the ultimate goal, having a vision, working towards it to become a world champion, which I achieved in 2011. Now you could say, you know, look at that wave of resilience, how I went from a traumatic car accident to becoming a world champion. Definitely, you'd say, on a higher plane. And so that's the story. That's where I've come from. That's probably the biggest wave that I've traveled. So I started high, and everything after that, probably not as bad as that one, but I can still use the wave of resilience. One for myself in the last year, definitely with my business as a motivational speaker, speaking at conferences. There aren't many conferences at the moment. There haven't been for a while now, for a year. And that's a traumatic, effect for me, because that's the one thing that I love to do. I love to share my journey, to speak to people, to help, to inspire, to motivate. For that to be taken away from me, that's horrible. That's what I chose to do. So I've had to rethink. I've had to go through that wave of resilience myself, to the anger, of course. I had a little bit of anger and sharing. You know, social media is quite good for sharing, but don't use it too much. But there's various techniques that I use throughout, and I'm coming out the other side on a higher plane, because I've got new skills, new talks that I consider, the same storm, different boat, the wave of resilience, which was kind of born a year ago as I realized that a lot of people needed help with resilience. I thought, oh, I know what to do here. I've done this. I did this with my accent thing. So how do I get what's in my head onto some kind of format, some paper? How do I explain it to people? And that's why I came up with the concept of the wave of resilience, the full title, Riding the Wave of Resilience to Become a Winner, because that's what I did. And you can become a winner in yourself. So on it goes. I think the wave of resilience is there to stay, and it's so adaptable as well. Once people understand it, then they can start using it and use it to their advantage, which is always really good, helping them.
Your story always makes me smile, Steve, and I often think about you when people whinge and moan about the slightest little thing, and I just want to slap them. I think, just get over yourself. You know, there's people that have, you know, women who, you know, they've just had their nails done and they break a nail or something. Oh, please, you know.
Yeah.
Every time I interview my guests, there's always something that I learn, which is wonderful. And what you've just done for me is to set how important the hormonal balance is in our lives. And as a health mentor myself, I'm always talking about balance. And when you have the wave of resilience, you're up and down, and it's not, you don't necessarily go through in an order. Although you said the steps, sometimes people oscillate and they go backwards and forwards, don't they? And of course, the hormones that you've mentioned, they're all names that most people would recognise. You know, the serotonin, the testosterone, the oxytocin, etc., etc. But I've never really thought. I often talk about this curve, which most people will know as the Kubler-Ross curve. Where Dr. Kubler-Ross spoke about the grief cycle, and, you know, going from acceptance and the grief that people have gone through in the last year. It may be, you know, they've lost their business, or their business is down considerably, or they've had to reinvent themselves. So you reinvented yourself. You were a successful athlete, I believe, before the accident. You became a super athlete. And Paratriathlon, I think, isn't it? That is your sport. So do you still do sport today, Steve?
I keep fit and healthy. So I'm very passionate about my morning routine, which is ultimate. And then, keeping fit and healthy, keeping it ticking over. I went for a run yesterday. It was windy and it was rainy, and I went out. And do you know what? As I was out running, and I turned the corner, and the wind hit me really hard. I was like, "Whoa, this is horrible!" I thought, "Why am I doing this?" this reminds me of 10 years ago when I was an elite athlete. As an elite athlete, you can't question it. You need to go for a run, you go for a run. You put a coat on, out you go. Now I don't need to do it. Why am I going out in the wind and the rain? And I just thought, because I want to keep fit and healthy. And it's a lot of people say, how do you keep fit? And it's much about thinking about how you'll feel afterwards in the future, projecting your thoughts forward. If I thought a lot about going out in the wind and rain, then I probably wouldn't go. But what I think about is how I'll feel at the end of that, getting back in the house, going, yes, I did it. Wow, I'm amazing. Look at me. And that's what motivates me to keep going. It's just other things, working towards your dreams, your goals. There's going to be tough times. Don't concentrate on those tough times. Think about the end result when you're celebrating, when you're at the podium, or you're drinking champagne, you're talking to somebody about what you've just achieved. Think about that bit. That's the bit that motivates you. So yes, my motivation is to keep fit and healthy, keep moving around. I want to be able. I do have, issues with my legs, and so keeping my weight down is very important. Keeping my fitness up is very important. Tomorrow it is my birthday, and so on my birthday I'm going to do what I really want to do. So I've booked in a swimming session early morning in the swimming pool. I'd love to do it in the lake, but it's far too cold for that. I've got my limits. So swimming session first. Then after that, I'm going to go for a cycle ride. And then after that, I'm going to go for a run. So swim, cycle, run. That's what I, as an elite athlete, that's what I did. Now, I'm not doing it anywhere near the same level, but it gives me pleasure. I love doing it. So I will do that. And I don't do that every day. I don't know when the last time I did swim, bike and run all in one day. It's probably a year ago. But I want to keep it up. I like doing at least one triathlon a year. So just because I can. I think the thing is that I went through a lot of times when I couldn't do things, when I was in a wheelchair, when I was in crutches, and I still think I've got that burning desire. My tiger, my caged tiger inside me is still clawing at the cage, saying, let's go and do stuff while we can. There were so many times when I said I literally physically can't do it. I'm now thinking I can do it. It's up to me whether I want to do it. And I think, yeah, well, I should do it. So a phrase I used a lot in my training was can. I can. If you can do something, do it. Because once it's taken away from you, that's when you realize how important it is. And I used to get really frustrated with people who were lazy, who didn't look after themselves when I was in a wheelchair, because I just thought, I just want to swap bodies. I just want to swap bodies with their body and go for a run, go and do some exercise. Look at them, they're sat down and they're overweight and they're not fit. And I'm here in a wheelchair. I want to do stuff and I can't. Well, the tables have turned. I can now, so I should. I think it's it's a given right. If I want to do something, then I should. But I also understand that that's not always easy. You got to keep it ticking over. Ages are creeping up on us all bit by bit. So yeah, just doing little things. A little swim, a little bike, a little run tomorrow. That'll give me a lot of pleasure. And then also, I do like eating and drinking. So I'll do that at lunchtime with my girlfriend, and maybe some fizz in the evening to celebrate. Don't forget about the celebrate. It's very important. Always going to do that. So yes, I do keep fit and healthy, which is good. And then also, if I can pass on to others, I guess first of all, I'm thinking about my two kids. Rob and Susanna, if I can encourage them to keep fit, keep doing stuff. I'm not a pushy parent. I'm just giving them opportunities. If they want to do something, okay, let me help you do that thing. And if you don't want to do it, why not? And I don't preach to them or anything, but I just want them to understand how important these things are. They can decide, of course they can. They're going to be young adults soon, but I want to give them all the options so that they can pick and choose what they decide with.
Very important, isn't it, to have choice? And we all have choice. Some people feel when they're at rock bottom on your step 5 that they're backed into a corner. There's nothing they can do, but there's always something we can do. And I'm a great believer that when you're down, the only way is up. There's a song, isn't there? The only way is up, and that's a great inspirational song to get you livened up. But yeah, there is choice, but there's also passion, and not everybody can be asked to do the things that are uncomfortable, and it's too easy for people to give up. So how do you inspire people? Well, I know how you do it because you're a leading example. Silly question, but if you have somebody who's like really down in the dumps, where do you start with them? Because you're a motivational speaker, but you're a resilience coach and motivational coach as well. Where do you start with these people?
These select people. So I think what I talk about is I have to be careful not to talk about myself too much, because it's not about me, it's about them. So I'd ask them where they are now. It's very important to get a benchmark, and I'd ask them two questions: what is their coal, and what is their gold? So what I mean by that is, what is their coal? This relates to, I used to work down the coal pits of Yorkshire when I first left school, and I knew that I was destined for more than that. Eventually became an engineer, still worked down the pits, but eventually got out of that, went through, worked in a laboratory, worked in construction. As my journey goes, I eventually, got the gold medal of the world champion. So going from coal to gold is pretty much my journey. What is their coal? What is that thing that they are, so the letters COAL, what are they in contempt with? What are their obstacles? What are they angry with? And what are they loathing? And what do they hate? What do they dislike about themselves, their life, whatever? Just write it down. Usually people can come up with a few things. For example, the pandemic in the last year, people might say, I hate that. Okay, we'll write that down. So this comes into control. So some things you can't control. And so therefore you have to control the things that you can. You can't always control the things that happen to us, but we can control how we react to those things that happen to us. So take on the responsibility, take on the ownership, take on the accountability. What is your goal? Let's get that listed down. I encourage them to draw a picture because I think it's really important for your brain to see that. Your RAS at the back of your head, your reticular activating system, see what you hate, and that will drive you to move forward. Now, the next thing is, what's your gold? What's your goal, your opportunity, your love, your desire, your dream? What is that thing that you really want? Just shout it out. Just draw a picture of it. And your brain will instantly start thinking about how to get there. Now, the how, we haven't got time to talk about that. That's a big thing. Again, it's something that I do in my workshops because it can get quite heavy. But we're not talking about that. We're just talking about the simple things at the moment. What do you hate and what do you love? Let's go with that. And as you see the things you hate, you'll suddenly say to yourself, well, why am I doing it? Why am I doing that to myself? Why am I in that situation? This is crazy. Good, excellent. So we're getting an anger, a fire built up there. That's that caged tiger clawing. And they say, what do you want? What's your gold? And suddenly they see it, they hear it, they have a picture. Wow, that would be amazing. They start, dreaming. Wow, can you imagine in 5 years' time if I was actually doing that? Brilliant. Your brain will start opening up to those opportunities around us all the time. There are other opportunities. The thing is that when you see them, when you hear them, when you smell them, you got to grab hold of them with both hands and do something about it. That's the action thing. So do it. Work out what you want, see those opportunities, grab them, do something, work towards your goal. So that's what I would say for people, if they want to be motivated, work out where they are, the benchmark, and where they want to be.
Very sensible advice. Run me through that coal again. What was the C on the coal?
So coal is contempt. What are you in contempt with? What are your obstacles? What are you angry with? And what are you loathing?
Right, brilliant. From coal to gold. That's brilliant. I love that. Excellent. So something else I've learned today. Fantastic. As I say, every one of us can learn something every day. And it's about, I think, also awareness and action. You've mentioned action a few times. And my frustration is when I see people who are perfectly able to take action and they're just sitting on the fence, and I just want to, give them a nudge or sometimes a great big push, because some people with their health, they don't have the time, they don't have the luxury of the time to sit on the fence. They have to take action. So I've learned in the past year to step back a bit and accept that people have choices and it's their choice. I give them, I set out some options with their health. Typically, because of my story, people come to me to help them reverse cancer, which I reversed stage 4 cancer in 14 weeks. One of the cancers I'd had. So I've become this sort of go-to person, which I didn't ask to be, but that's what's kind of happened. And I'd say to people, I'm not everybody's cup of tea because I'm quite forceful and, like a lioness warrior type sort of person. And because you have, it's like when you were in your wheelchair, and you know the frustration and the anger when you had the ability, well, you didn't have the ability, you had the vision, but you didn't have the wherewithal at that time, but you knew you could get, you didn't know the how. So the how is the important bit, isn't it? It's the where you are now. So being aware of where you are, and many people they're not even aware of what's around them. They're not aware what their situation is, and it takes somebody from the outside, like a coach, somebody like you, to work with them, to get them to wake up, to realise where they're at, and then you can help guide them step by step, baby steps for some people, or giant leaps for others, but you're there to hold hand and to guide them from the coal to the gold. Fabulous. I love it.
Yeah, so, a lot of people say, you know, when they say, you know, what's your goal? What do you want to do, Steve? What do you want to achieve? Mine's almost the opposite, because what my drive is my frustration. My frustration with people that aren't making the most of their lives. And I'm sure you can relate with this. Anybody who's been through a near-life experience, you suddenly do realise, you know, you've only got one life, you need to live it. I think there's a saying of you have two lives, and you only realise you've got two lives when you move on from your first life, when you realize you've only got one life or something. It's something complicated. It's very much about living life to the full. And what frustrates me is people that are saying, you know, how are you? And they go, yeah, you know, it's okay. Well, how's work? So work's work, isn't it? How's your relationship? It's okay. And you just think, oh my, you're drifting. You're like on a flatlining in life. And I think what you need to do is you need to push yourself out your comfort zone. You need to do something. You need to realize, you want to experience. I want to help people experience the happiness and the fullness of living their lives to the full. That's what it really is. And if I can do something to do that, if that's inspiring them or motivating them or actually helping them through coaching my workshops, then that's what I really want to do. And that's what drives me, is the frustration that other people don't get that, and they're drifting, and they're going to drift through life, and they're going to look back and they're going to have regrets. And I don't think anybody should have regrets in life. And I know that's not an easy thing to do, but you do that by looking forward, as in, well, how am I going to feel at the end of that? As in, if I didn't go for a run yesterday, I would have regretted that. As I went to bed, I'd have gone, oh, you lazy sod, you didn't go for a run because a little bit of rain and wind. I would have regretted that. And that's bad. Instead, I went to bed going, I did it. It was only a jog, you know, it was only something simple, but living life with no regrets, only you can answer that. Nobody else can. Only you can ask yourself, any regrets today? Any regrets this week? Any regrets this year? Any regrets in my life? And if you can say no regrets, then that's a good life. And that's what I want to have.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful feeling, isn't it? And every day I'm grateful. I'm humble, although some people don't see the humbleness. But I'm grateful that I can go to bed at night, putting my head on the pillow, knowing that I've done the best. I have positively helped some people along the way, and it's about planting seeds. I plant seeds every day now. You know, sort of metaphorical seeds for people to do, you know, pick up as you do, and it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. So it's not just about helping other people. In helping other people, we help ourselves, don't we?
We do, yeah. It almost seems selfish, isn't it, to help other people to make ourselves feel good. I have this go-in around my neck. This is a Japanese coin that somebody gave me when I was traveling through Australia. Long story, but basically, I put it around my neck in 2009 when I started doing my paratriathlons. Basically, it's a go-in. It stands for good karma. By him giving it to me, I got good karma. By me sharing it with others as a gift, then I get good karma. The symbols on it, 3 symbols. The first one is, like you just said, Elaine, it's the rice fields. You've got to plant the seeds. If you can't plant the seeds, there is no harvest. So if you want something to grow, you've got to plant it. What does that mean to you? The other symbol on it is the fishing, the industry in Japan. And that's about having a network of people that you can rely on, that you can help. If you want to lead generation, you know, you fish where the big fish are. But it's about having a network. And the last one is the circle around the middle, and that's the Industrial Revolution. So it's a gear wheel, and that resembles action. And you already know that I've mentioned action a lot. Action is so important. It always makes me smile because there's so many people out there that don't take action. They just talk. They talk and they talk and they talk and they talk. Oh, one day I'm going to do this. Just get on with it. Just do something. And I know we're all guilty of it a little bit, but I think people like me are less guilty. I actually do something, and people go, wow, you're always doing something. Yeah, because that's what I said I was going to do. And I only say things that I'm going to do if I really want to do them. I have to be careful on that. I know that if there's something and I focus on it, then I'm going to do it, and nothing else, you know, just like a laser beam, which is good. So be careful what you choose. This is why you need to work out what your goal is. What is your goal, your opportunity, your love, your desire? Go there, draw a picture, get it written down, make a beeline for that, focus on it, and take action towards that. So yeah, you know, having action, planting your seeds, having a network, all very important. And having that around my neck, it means I'm reminded of that every single day.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you've written a book, haven't you? Do you have a copy with you to wave at the screen? I'm sure you must have.
I do. I've got one here.
There we go.
So this is my autobiography that I wrote in 2019. Set myself a goal. So the thing is that a lot of people hear me speak and they say, oh, I know, I've heard your story. You think, oh, you've heard a little bit of it. So the book's got it all in, which is what's really important. The book's called Don't Lean on Your Excuses. It's my catchphrase, I guess you could call it. But if anybody does want a copy, by all means, go on Amazon, you can buy a copy. But if you want me to sign it and put a nice little message in it, just contact me, and I can do that and post it out to you and put a personal touch on it. You can contact me through social media. I'm everywhere. Facebook, LinkedIn is probably the best, Instagram and Twitter, but also my website is probably the best place, and that's www.steve-judge.co.uk. And get in contact if you want to chat, if you want to talk about anything that I've talked about today, then do that. But if you want to ask me any questions, or if you just want some help, just reach out, like we just talked about. We love doing it. It's like it's a selfish, addictive thing. So please, if I can help anybody, get in touch.
Yeah, fabulous. But it's been lovely speaking with you, Steve. I could talk forever, but we've got lives to lead, we've got things to do, lots of actions to take, and people to help. So lovely to speak with you, Steve. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, Elaine.